All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about a creature that kind of haunts our collective mythology, Behemoth. But, this is not your average monster story. Not at all. Behemoth is a complete enigma, a real shapeshifter of meaning, whose whole identity has been rewritten over and over and over again for like 3,000 years.
So, on one hand, you've got the Book of Job, which presents Behemoth like this, as the absolute peak of divine creation. I mean, a creature of such immense power and awe, it was basically designed to show off the sheer grandeur of God's universe, a true masterpiece.
But then, you fast forward a couple thousand years, and you get this. In the pages of a 19th century dictionary of demonology, Behemoth is no masterpiece of God. Nope. Now it's a high-ranking demon of hell, a symbol of pure, unrestrained, carnal excess. What a switch.
And just to make things even weirder, some of the earliest traditions see Behemoth as something else entirely. Not really a creature, but more of a cosmic force, the land-based embodiment of that formless chaos that existed before creation itself.
So, what is it? I mean, really? How can one name hold so many totally contradictory identities? Well, that's the mystery we're unpacking today. And to figure it out, we've got to go way back to the very beginning.
So, to solve the puzzle of Behemoth, we have to trace its family tree, so to speak. And trust me, its earliest ancestor is probably not what you're expecting.
I mean, just look at this contrast. This is Taweret, an ancient Egyptian goddess. She was this benevolent, protective figure, a guardian of mothers and children, usually shown with the body of a hippo, a far cry from a demon of hell, right? This incredible link suggests Behemoth's story actually begins not with terror, but with protection.
And the name itself gives us a huge clue. Behemoth comes from the Hebrew word for animal, behema. But it's written in this special plural form, the pluralis excellentia. So it doesn't just mean animals, plural, it means the animal, like the greatest, most magnificent animal of them all. It's a name that basically screams its own supremacy.
So let's jump to its most famous appearance, which completely changed the game for this creature. In the Book of Job, Behemoth isn't just some monster. It's the absolute centerpiece of a massive theological argument. Just listen to how God describes this thing to the suffering Job. This is pure, raw, untamable power. Its tail is like a cedar tree, its bones like bronze tubes. It's an incredible description, and it shows you its purpose in the story. It's a being so immense, so powerful, that only its creator, God himself, could even think about challenging it.
And here's the crucial point. Job is on the ground, suffering, demanding to know why this is happening to him, a good man. And what's God's response? He doesn't give a straight answer. Instead, he points to Behemoth. He basically changes the subject entirely, from human justice to cosmic power.
And that's the key right there. Behemoth is living proof that the universe doesn't operate on human terms, or for our convenience. Its very existence is meant to shock Job out of his self-centered misery and force him to confront a creation so vast, so powerful, and so indifferent to his personal pain that all he can really do is just stand there in absolute wonder.
But, of course, the story doesn't end there. After the Bible, it takes another sharp turn. Behemoth's identity as the symbol of divine wonder, well, it starts to fade, and it's replaced by something much, much darker.
You can actually track its fall from grace in 3 really clear steps. First, it goes from God's masterpiece in Job to an apocalyptic monster in later Jewish texts. These are called the Apocrypha, writings that didn't make it into the standard biblical canon. There, it's destined to fight Leviathan at the end of time. And finally, Christian demonology completely recasts it as a resident of hell, a pure symbol of sin.
And this whole transformation really culminates in Colin de Plancy's Infernal Dictionary. Here, Behemoth is a 2-legged elephant, the guardian of hell, the patron demon of gluttony, and, get this, it can even transform into a seductive woman. So why such a dramatic demotion? Well, as Christian theology was trying to define its ideas about sin, these powerful, wild figures from the Old Testament became perfect containers for all those forbidden desires. Behemoth's raw physical power was no longer a sign of God's amazing creation, but of earthly, carnal sin.
Now, just when you think the story can't get any stranger, it takes a hard left turn into political philosophy. Yeah, in the 17th century, Behemoth becomes a symbol for something completely new, the modern state. And the guy responsible for this is the philosopher Thomas Hobbes.
In his super famous work, Leviathan, he uses these biblical monsters to describe his new vision for political power, a mortal god right here on Earth, created to save humanity from itself. Now for Hobbes, this wasn't just some abstract idea. He was writing right after the absolutely brutal English Civil War, a time of unbelievable chaos. He argued that the natural state of humanity was just a war of all against all, and that only a massively powerful sovereign, a government with absolute authority, could stop society from literally tearing itself apart. So, the awesome, terrifying power of Behemoth was the perfect metaphor for this absolute state he saw as the only way to avoid total anarchy. Suddenly, the monster's a political machine.
Phew, okay, so we've seen Behemoth as a benevolent protector, a divine wonder, an apocalyptic beast, a carnal demon, and a political symbol. Let's pull all these threads together for the final reveal.
When you look at it on a timeline, the journey is crystal clear. It goes from an Egyptian goddess, to a biblical argument, to an apocalyptic terror, to a political theory born out of civil war, and finally to a Christian demon. Each era took the raw material of this myth and completely reshaped it to deal with its own unique problems and fears.
And you know what? That's the answer to our puzzle. Behemoth isn't just one of these things. Its real identity is its adaptability. It's like a blank screen, a mythic canvas where different ages have painted their deepest anxieties and their highest ideals about power that just can't be tamed, whether that power is natural, divine, demonic, or political.
And that leaves us with one last thought. Every culture creates monsters to help it understand the forces it can't control. So the real question for us is, what are our behemoths? What are the vast, terrifying, and awe-inspiring forces that we're trying to give a name to today?